Hi everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the AR in Action Leadership Summit. It's good to be here in New York with all you guys. I'm actually another place entirely. I'm in Los Angeles as well, and I'm going to be popping in and out to give you a tour of my artwork, how it's created, and also talk a little bit about the future. Of course, if you talk about the future, you have to talk about the past, because the further you go back, the further you can see forward. And to give you an example, I wanted to just bring you back in time to 100 years ago at 1911, and I wanted to introduce the story of a man named Cal Rogers. Cal Rogers entered a contest to fly from coast to coast, Pennsylvania to California. And I want you to make a guess how long you think it took him. It took him 49 days, 30 stops, and 14 crashes. So as you can see, just 100 years ago, it was a huge quest to go from coast to coast. And right now, it's as easy as this. And Microsoft shows us here how you can actually be 3 places at once. Watch this.
So can you tell us a little bit, Jeff, about where you are?
Well, I'm actually in 3 places. I'm standing in a room across the street, while I'm standing on this stage with you, while I'm standing on Mars, 100 million miles away.
Wow, 100 million miles away. This is crazy. Can you tell us a little bit more about where all this data from Mars is coming from?
Absolutely. This is a precise holographic replica of Mars, built from data captured by the Curiosity Mars rover that I can explore as easily as a place on Earth.
I wanted to tell you a little bit about the sculptural timeline that I'm creating, which traces the history of virtual reality and augmented headsets through time. The series has been going for 2 years. There's over 60 pieces in the collection. The timeline starts with the very earliest pieces from Ivan Sutherland and NASA and runs all the way up to the latest and greatest from Meta and other companies. When I was organizing all my research, I put a timeline online. And I realized at some point that the timeline was breaking when I looked at it based on time. In other words, so many companies were making augmented reality headsets, the timeline started to break. In other words, everybody's getting in this game. I fire all the headset pieces in an ancient Japanese technique called raku, which was developed all the way back in the 1500s. I'm going to continue to work on this timeline series until we have fully invented augmented reality contact lenses, which sounds crazy, but there's actually patents on them today. And I'm going to be honoring people and technology through this incredible quest that we have to get out of the screen, to suddenly see the 3D world in a 3D way instead of a 2D monitor. Do you guys want to know the dirty little secret about augmented reality and the industry? Well, that is that the technology is moving so quickly that we may not be mentally ready for all this change. And as you know, change is unknown, change is scary, and sometimes our gut reaction as human beings, because we're animals, is fear. The other reaction is, well, let someone else think about it. I don't really know. We can't do that. We got to think about what we want and make that into our reality. So I started a storytelling project called Once Upon a Future, and it's a decentralized hashtag that anybody can grab and use and publish on. And we're going to have challenges, kind of like the ice bucket challenges. We're going to send magic wands and controllers, VR controllers, to incredible creators and writers and musicians to try to get them to put out their ideas about what is the future that we really want. Because if we don't know, we're never going to get there. So I'm going to share with you my 3 ideas on how you can generate ideas about the future of this incredible technology. So one of my tips for really getting started in this industry is demoing all the time. You know, sometimes something that you think is going to be really awesome is not really awesome when you do it. Either the experience is too long, or people don't think it's fun, or it's not engaging, and you never really know that until you actually create it or you see someone fail. And one of the things I realized is being in these conferences and seeing all these people, a lot of it's theoretical. It takes a lot of time to figure out what experiences to try in VR, what experiences to try in AR, but it has to be something that you work into your daily routine. So, for example, you might say, okay, every 2 weeks or every month or whatever it is, we're going to devote an hour of a meeting to everybody on the team bringing in one experience to share, one incredible experience. It could be a great failure or a great success. But until you see what actually works, you're not going to be growing and learning as a creator. Personalize the question. My first instinct was like, look on YouTube, figure out what's happening in the future. But I realized that I generated a ton of ideas just by creating sections. What do I want for me personally? What do I want for my family? What do I want for my job? What do I want for my city? What do I want for my country? What do I want for my world? And what do I want for my species? And if you line up those questions and you start to go down through them, you can figure out different ideas that you have. For example, I want my kitchen window to look out over either outer space on Tuesdays, New York skyscraper on another day, etc. You know, my husband, he's like, I hate exercising. It's so boring. And then he puts on the HTC Vive, and an hour later, he's like sweating. You know what I mean? Like, there's a ton of apps for that need to be created. I want to be able to show my artwork to people like this. And it just lines up on the wall. You guys can see how big it is, what size it is. You can walk around it, and then I could go, and I put it back in my pocket. I want to collect things like you do in virtual worlds where like you can collect different items for survival. I want to collect real-life objects like bugs and things like that and have my little virtual collection. I want Spanish subtitles on everything. When I go to the movie, I want to see Spanish subtitles so I can begin to see. I learned speaking, and I want to see what the print looks like. I want to have an unplugged vacation. I want to take an Uber ride of the future. Like, how do we inspire the things that we think are important, like cultural understanding? Like maybe I get into my Uber, I ask the guy where he's from, and he says, oh, I'm from Bombay, India. And I say, oh, cool, do you have any feeds? And he says, sure. And all of a sudden, my boring ride in LA, all the windows get punched out, and I'm in Bombay. And I'm looking out the window around India. And I say, wow, that's a cool market. Can I go in VR? And he's like, sure. And all of a sudden, the entire car interior goes away, and I'm walking through that Indian market. And when I arrive to my destination 10 minutes later, he says, you want frequent flyer? And I say, yeah. And he gives me the distance between LA and Bombay. I calculate it in. I get free points for the games that I'm playing, and maybe I even get a discount to a restaurant, an Indian restaurant nearby. The last incredible fountain of inspiration for augmented reality ideas for apps and content is looking at system breakdowns that we're going through right now. If you look at healthcare, I mean, that's a huge system breakdown. We know that mind-body health, that, you know, the placebo effect that we have with people, where if you give people who are depressed a placebo, 50 to 30% of them get better with just the sugar pill. So we know that our minds have a huge factor when we're looking at our health. And we also know that food is poison and medicine. But we don't work nutrition or lifestyle changes into our doctor's appointments because doctors just don't have time. So how can virtual visits or artificial intelligence or augmented reality work to improve this outcome? You know, people want privacy, they want high quality, and they want it to be inexpensive. And I know we can leverage those things outside of this very confusing reimbursement and insurance that is based on doctors, for example. The other thing that's breaking down is education. You know, kids need to have much more engaging information today. They want to be the teachers and they want to learn from their friends. Augmented reality has proven to get people into a situation where they're learning more quickly and remembering more. Because for some reason, our bodies are wired to learn by doing. And something about being in a place is also hardwiring the information into our brains in a deeper way. In other words, you know, you remember 10% of what you read, 20% of what you hear, but 90% of what you do or simulate. So in other words, you're going to be learning faster. And you can't teach a kid fast when they're going to look it up on their phone. So we need to teach critical thinking. We need to see a problem from different points of view. Augmented reality is going to make the classroom more compelling. And Google has already been the leader in the forefront of doing Google Expeditions, where they've taken this technology, both virtual reality and augmented reality, into the classroom to create an entirely new way of learning and remembering and engaging kids. One of the things I think it's important to do is kind of look at our lives like a pie. My sister recently read a book that taught you to look at your death and see people coming to visit you on your deathbed and telling you what they remembered of you. And you think about what you want people to say. So what impact do you want your life to have? What values do you want to transmit? And then you take those values and work backwards and make sure that you're incorporating those every day of your life and everything you do. So, for example, if our values are to make the world better with this technology, we have to work that into our lives. And one way to do it that I've discovered is what I call time banking. So if we say, a lot of people used to give to the church and still do 15% of their income. So let's say we take a 15% either money or time bracket. If 5% of your 40-hour work week would be 2 hours. So let's say we spend 2 hours on community projects, whether that's investigating the impact of AR, whether it's thinking about the future, whether it's giving money to young creators that are, across the digital divide to see what they're going to be doing with this technology. Whatever it is, maybe you spend 5% experimenting and doing passion projects, letting your employees spend 2 to 4 hours a week or more developing what they're passionate with using the technology that you've created. And then maybe you spend another 2% learning. Like I said, this is a crazy time where all of a sudden you can't stop learning after college. We have to keep learning and learning and learning and learning. Otherwise, we're going to be way behind because the world is changing faster than we can keep up with it. So maybe we spend those hours, reading about new technology, figuring out where is artificial intelligence intersecting, where is space travel intersecting, how is NASCAR using augmented reality, how is Lowe's using augmented reality. Those are the kind of questions that are related, even though they feel unrelated sometimes. I also wanted to give you a tour of my augmented reality prints. Now, I created an app in Unity using a plugin by Euphoria, and people can install it on their phones and then point it out the prints. These prints use sound, so the more sound you make, the more the animation changes. mashup, this mix-up, this ability to comment on the world around us. In fact, in the very early days of augmented reality, Manifest AR, a group of mostly European artists and some Americans, came into New York, went to the MoMA, and they put up their virtual sculptures without permission. And then they went in, and people found out about it on social media, put it on their phone, and walked around the museum and got to see something new. And this is location-based augmented reality, which is so exciting. There's even teams that are using the technology to do some sort of a cinema where you stand on one corner and see one part of the scene, but then you have to walk to the next corner to see the next part of the scene. I wanted to tell you a little bit about my name since everybody asks me. My name is Jenny, but I also use Zenka, so I'm kind of like a quantum entity that's two things at once. You know, in my world, I lived in Argentina for many years, and I was a street artist, and we all had secondary names. Just like you will in virtual reality, when you begin to go into the metaverse, you're going to have a nickname. So you can start thinking of what your superhero name is going to be, or your avatar is going to be. You can also start thinking about what your virtual assistant is going to be called, because you'll definitely have one in the future. And you might even have a virtual chef. So we're going to have to think of names for all these incredible new entities we're going to have. And we have got to realize that this at a system level is changing. You know, our identities are changing. You're going to have this idea of a multiple identity. And sometimes you're going to want to be yourself online. Sometimes you're going to want to be a superhero version of yourself online. Sometimes you're going to want to see the world from another point of view and be someone else and see the world halfway across the world. Bye everybody. I hope you had an incredible time at the conference this year. I know it's an amazing time to get inspired and get connected with other people in the industry, and I wish I could have been there. But I will be in New York on the 22nd and 23rd for the Art of VR at Sotheby's, so I hope you can join me. And I look forward to seeing you in the virtual world. Good luck. Bye.